Hey everybody, welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of December 10th, 2025. First, let me start off by saying I'm sorry I haven't gotten the gift guides out. I have them all built for Marvel, DC, Image, Ghost Machine, Dark Horse, Boom, IDW, Indies. I just haven't had time to actually record. I've got links and everything where you can order the books. By the time I get them out, it'd be probably too late to order them for Christmas, but I will do my best to get them out. I've just been so busy with the holidays, holiday party, and yeah, it's just a crazy time of year, but I'm hoping to get them out very, very soon. Also, I have an interview with Ben Morrow, who did a fantastic graphic novel called Huxley, which the visuals on it are absolutely amazing, so look for that. That's out over on the Comic Source YouTube channel. And when you head over there to check that out, please like, subscribe, comment, ring that notification bell. All that stuff really helps with our visibility and helps us gain access to more publishers and what have you. And as long as you're checking this out on Rocky's channel on YouTube, where it comes out every Tuesday, Comic Space Boom ! Again, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of this week's DC books. We really appreciate all of that. And if you prefer audio only, again, Comic Source podcast is available on all podcast feeds. Just do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. Google Podcast, Apple, Spotify, all of those places. And then finally, I'll mention that I've had a few of my fireside chats fall through because people are super busy this year. So I've got 6 of them in the can, 2 more scheduled. Which leaves me with 4. So we'll see. We'll see if I actually get 12 done. I mean, I know there's people that I can reach out to at the last minute and get them to come on. We'll see. And then also may replace one of the fireside chats with a comic talk like Rocky and I did last year. Hopefully we can get our buddy Steve on as well, because we've been talking about wanting to get together for a show just to do some random talk about comics the year that was. I have a lot of thoughts that I want to discuss with these guys. So look for that before the end of the year, whether it's part of the 12 days of the Comic Source or not. Anyway, 9 books to talk about this week. I wouldn't go so far as to say I was underwhelmed, because there were a couple of books that I really, really liked, but there's a couple of stinkers in here that I really did not care for. One that I think is just a poorly made comic. It's just not executed very well. And one that it's just not for me, like in any way, shape, or form. And
I can guess.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure Rocky knows exactly which one I'm talking about. And I have my reasons for that, and I'll mention it briefly when I talk about it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, because frankly, I think most people are going to probably enjoy it, and you guys could probably guess what it is. It's going to be the top-selling comic this week, and I did buy a variant. I bought a 1 in 25 variant cover of it for $16, because I know I'm gonna be able to flip that thing for probably like $50.
Good for you.
But yeah, it's, to me, like, yeah, I struggled to get through it. But again, I knew that going in. I knew from the moment I saw the first image that I wasn't gonna like it. So anyway, 9 books. Rocky, what'd you think?
I thought it was a little underwhelming a week too. I was, I'm still having fun. You and I do talk on the sides, we do text each other and of course talk. And I'm really glad that I have. One of the benefits of us, at least of getting preview copies, is that I do have the benefit of letting it sink in and letting these things percolate me, and I get a better perspective. And sometimes it does change my perspective when I percolate around a little bit. And sometimes it can turn a rant into more of a diplomatic review. But overall, I was slightly disappointed. But as far as the DCKO event, I think there's still fun to be had here, and but there was really just there was only 5 for me that I really enjoyed, and there out of 9, there was the bottom 4 I really wasn't a big fan of at all. But again, what a wonderful first world problem to have. 'Tis the season, and I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to hear your view. I know you probably don't want to rant about it all that much, because I know you like to keep these things as short and succinct as possible. But I might pick your bones a little bit there. So
No, I mean, feel free to do so. I mean, when I talk about it, I'm gonna, it's gonna be my bias. It's like if there was an Amanda Waller book, I wouldn't be predisposed to like it. I have my reasons for that. So for me, like, if you want to break it down, so my top 5 I enjoyed. Number 6, I thought it was just an average book. It had some flaws, I'll mention it. And then 7, 8, and 9, I just didn't really care for, but particularly 8 and 9. But anyway, let's dive in, and we'll get it started right off the bat. Absolute Batman number 15, which again I expect it to be far and away. Actually, is that the first book?
That's Action Comics.
Action Comics. Sorry, Action Comics number 1093 is the first book. Written by Mark Waid. Skylar Patridge is the artist. Yvonne Placencia handles the colors. Steve Wan's on letters. Foreclosed, it's right there on the cover with Superboy. And there's some hints of this last issue, that there were farms being foreclosed on and what have you. Didn't really think that either of the variant covers stood out, so I don't really have much to add there. Skylar Patridge on art, fantastic, love it. We've had some other artists on it, but I love the aesthetic that she brings, and so I really, for the most part, enjoyed this. There were a couple of things about it that nitpicked a little, that I'll nitpick, but before I do that, I do want to mention that on Instagram it was announced, and then I think maybe Blue Sky as well. Anyway, Lucas Meyer, who watches the show, hey Lucas, congrats, man. He has been announced on as the regular ongoing artist on Superman Unlimited.
Nice.
So Raphael Albuquerque, who's doing that title with Dan Slott, is pivoting over to do the Absolute Green Arrow with Pornsack Peach Stote. So Lucas Meyer is stepping in. Now he's already done issue 7, and I think he did issue 8 as well. And then I think 9 and 10 are a guest artist, and then he picks back up with 11. So I love it. I'm a huge fan of Lucas's work. I think he's perfect for Superman Unlimited. So when I saw that message that Lucas posted, I was over the moon. So excited. Can't wait to see what he brings.
I'm excited. That's really great news to hear. And I also love his covers. And it's increasingly rare nowadays to have people, not only are they fantastic, he's a great cover artist. I love his covers. But he also does interiors, and I love artists that, I know if you get popular enough, you can just make a living doing covers, but I really respect artists who got the skill, and they're glutton for punishments, but I love that they put the extra work in and actually do interiors. I really appreciate that. I wish a lot of the other big, other artists as well who just do covers, I wish they would try to do more interiors. The fact that Lucas Meyer's doing that, I love that, I just.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I agree with you, but I will disagree on one person emphatically who shouldn't ever do interiors, and that's Jim Lee. Because he can't.
Well, obviously.
Jim Lee has never met a deadline that he could not blow through. You want a book to be late. No, and don't get me wrong, Jim Lee, he's a legend for a reason, and Jim's a great guy and a real champion of comics, and he's fantastic with his fans. But he's up there in age. He's got a lot of responsibilities, both professionally and familial. So I understand why he has a tough time meeting deadlines. It's totally understandable. He's not at an age where he can pull all-nighters or what have you. So I get it. I understand. So just stop, Jim. Do your covers. That's fantastic. But anyway, the reason that I brought up Lucas, and not only to just say congratulations to him, but when we talk about the Skylar Patridge tone of art on Action Comics, it's similar to Lucas in a lot of ways. Like, it's classically super heroic. It's clean lines. It feels there's like an innocence to it, which very much suits the character of Superboy in terms of Skylar, and Superman in terms of Lucas. So I really enjoyed this art. I said there was a part of it that I nitpicked about. So the whole idea is there's a guy at the bank who's double crossing a bunch of farmers and saying that they're defaulted on their loans when they haven't. and he's telling the corporate office back in Metropolis, yeah, we don't have any records of their payments or whatever, because he's gone into the system and removed the records of their payments. And so they're months behind, but they're just barely finding out that supposedly they're behind. And his whole idea is he's going to take, he's going to foreclose on the farms and then sell them to a developer, and he's going to take the money and run. And then by the time it all gets sorted out, he'll be on a beach somewhere, collecting 20% or whatever the Alan Rickman line from the best Christmas movie ever, Die Hard, is. So Superboy, he finds out about this by using his X-ray vision and seeing the documents on the guy's desk. And so it's not admissible, not the right way to do it, like morally, ethically, whatever. And the whole reason he's even done that, he's gone to the bank to confront the guy, is because he's there to save the day for his parents by going to an abandoned gold mine in the outskirts of Smallville and digging up a big hunk of gold so they can at least pay off their debt so they don't get foreclosed on. And Ma and Pa Kent are like, nah, we don't want to do that. I can take the easy way out. That kind of bugged me a little bit. I'm like, because Superboy's right. He's like, oh, I didn't steal it. Like, no, we don't want to teach the right lesson. How is this the easy way out? Like, I get that it wasn't super difficult for him to go and find the gold. Not everybody has that advantage, but like, there's such a thing as like using the skills that you have, and he's not doing it to get ahead. He's doing it to right a wrong. So I don't know. I thought that was, I kind of was more in his shoes as opposed to being like with Ma and Pa when they're like, no, this is not what we're going to do, which surprised me a little bit because for the most part, Mark Waid and I are pretty simpatico, on the same wavelength when it comes to, the kind of the morality of Superman and what have you, the values and whatever. But I don't know. I thought that one was a little bit, it just didn't logically, maybe it's the logic part of me, right? Just like, hey, you have a problem and here's the solution. And it's not hurting anybody. It's not harming anybody. Again, he didn't go steal the gold from somebody else. So he does find a way to not only save the day for his parents, the Kent farm, but also for everybody else. And in that way, it was very Superman-like. But yeah, that scene when he shows up with the hunk of gold ore and his dad's like, nah, we're not going to do that. I mean, it didn't surprise me necessarily, but yeah, I would definitely more on Clark's side than on the side of Ma and Pa. But I did enjoy this. It wasn't my favorite issue of the series so far, but it did make my top 5. Came in at number 4 for me. So, anyway, what are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
I sort of echo your sentiment a bit. I didn't think it was that big a deal that he finds some gold to help out his parents. Also, I think he took the ridiculously difficult way to solve the problem by trying. He could have simply. I mean, this isn't technically a legal admissibility in the court matter. It's not. All he had to do was let the corporate boss know of what the minion, what the lower corporate banker employee was doing, and it would have been solved. But I'm nitpicking. It has a nice moral lesson to it, and it reemphasizes the moral code of how Superman was raised, how young Clark Kent was raised. And you can disagree with Jonathan and Martha Kent because maybe they are a little bit self-righteous, maybe they are a little bit, moralistic, but that's how he was raised, and you could understand that's what shaped his moral fiber. And there's something to be sort of admired about that, of that sort of old schools, maybe conservative, i.e., God forbid, Christian ethic, and so I thought it worked. And it does have a nice small town feel. I like also, I could call back with, I love the triangle with Lana Lang looking at the sky, looking for Superboy, having a crush on Superboy, and of course, not really noticing Clark Kent, and nice moments like that. This is Mark Waid once again doing a really good job of bringing in that Silver Age, filtering it with modern day sensibilities, and it works. It never made my top 5, but it's only because I but it wasn't bad, but I it feels just a little bit safe. I'm looking for a little bit more dare I say action, and I've read a lot of Silver Age, and maybe it's just my mood that I've been in the last few years, but I just want to I'm just looking for something a little bit more action packed.
Yeah, I didn't know General Lane could draw so well either. But I did, appreciate the foreshadowing for the next issue, where it looks like we're going to get General Lane drafting Superboy, or asking for his assistance to go help out with some soldiers that are kind of pinned down. But it's not going to go the way that he wants it to go. Certainly, he's got him dressed in camo fatigues and whatever, and assuming he's going to follow orders. It's not exactly the way it's going to go down in my estimation. So, anyway, another book that makes both of our top 5, and that's Batman and Robin number 28. Actually makes my top 3. Written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson, Stefano Raphael on art, Marcelo Maiello on colors, Steve Wands on letters. Again, look for my chat with Phillip Kennedy Johnson, Fireside Chat, that's coming up, because we talk a lot about Batman and Robin, and specifically about the Quiet Man, and a little bit about the ventriloquist. And this sort of goes about the way that I expected it to, with, supposedly the ventriloquist has been cured, when in actuality he's maybe sicker than ever. And we do find out kind of the events, if you will, that led the Quiet Man to his mission of revenge that he's on right now. So, this is there's a lot of layers to this story. Not only do you have the ventriloquist supposedly cured, but relapsing and causing harm to people. You have the Quiet Man and what he's up to. You have Batman trying to stay one step ahead of the Quiet Man, or catch up to the Quiet Man. Robin as well. Then you have the Penguin and Two-Face on their own sides as well, because you find out exactly what their connection to the Quiet Man is. And then on top of that, there's a little bit of a mystery with the crime that was committed where the Quiet Man's son was killed. And that's introduced to Batman, and how that might show up is interesting as well. So as this story has gone on, as this story arc has gone on, the story has become more complex, which I really, really appreciate. And I'm going to be really sad. I'm so happy for Phillip Kennedy Johnson that he's got his exclusive at Marvel, because it comes with better benefits, better pay, guaranteed amount of work and what have you. Plus, he's super excited about some of the upcoming things he has at Marvel beyond Inferno Hulk that he's writing right now. But, oh my God, am I going to miss him on Batman and Robin, because he's just done such a fantastic job with the book. So, again, go listen to that interview when it drops. He talks about the Quiet Man and the choices he made, his inspiration visually for him, like all kinds of extra behind-the-scenes stuff. But I like the Quiet Man as a character, a new Batman character. Probably my favorite new Batman character since The Help. I thought The Help was a really inspired character from Tom King as well in Batman Killing Time. And the Quiet Man, a little bit like The Help in as much as it doesn't wear a costume. The Help's wearing like a tuxedo, was like a butler, because he's the Help. And Quiet Man just kind of wearing, jeans and a vest and a ball cap. Yeah. Gorgeous art by Stefano Raphael, but I do love the Miguel Mendoza art more, but that's just because I love Miguel. He's absolutely fantastic. But Stefano doesn't miss a beat. The art is fantastic, color work great, very well paced. I'm savoring each issue of Batman and Robin that much more, because I know Phillip Kennedy Johnson's going to be leaving the book. Going to be curious to find out who's taking his place. Or maybe they're just canceling the title to make room for those next level books. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, like I mentioned, Rocky, this is in your top 5 as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's also in my top 3. And one of the thing that, first of all, it's I wasn't expecting Phillip Kennedy Johnson to further build the mystery. And shame on me, I should know better, because he's proven his mettle more than once. I mean, and whether it was his writing on Superman or Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, his run, the complexity of his storylines and the mysteries would indeed continue to build. And while at times he would get a little bit complex and get deep into mythology, he's never afraid, to his credit, of challenging the reader with just a little bit more mystery, with a little bit more, and again with sometimes mixed effect, but it works very well here, and in particular building the mystery of the Quiet Man, the background of the Quiet Man. What is the background of the Quiet Man? What does it have to do with the past, his relationship with the Penguin and Two-Face, and in particular, what really what I absolutely loved was Scarface here, and just the revelation that Blair, the girl that was the woman that was sort of helping Scarface, treating Scarface, that all the time in the past issues when Batman's talking to Blair, he wasn't talking to Blair, he was talking to Scarface, and she's been dead for a week. And just the whole concept of revisiting the concept of Scarface's dummy. Well, it's not a dummy anymore. It's literally just in his head. It's in his imagination. So he's not been cured. And we've this is another fantastic ventriloquist story. The last one we got was in the pages, but I think it was Dan Waters over in Batman Dark Patterns, which was excellent. And so, man, if you're a ventriloquist fan, man, it's a good year to be a ventriloquist fan, because we're getting some really great stories between PKJ and Dan Waters. But this has been just really, really good, and I'm so curious to see where this goes. And just a very inspired and interesting sort of expansion of the complexity of Wesker, the ventriloquist, in terms of just how crazy he really is. And anyways, very well done. And the mystery builds for the Quiet Man. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this resolves. And you're right about the art. It's really fantastic. I honestly, I don't even notice that much of a visual artistic change. I've just been enjoying this so much. But that's a credit to the writing and the art has remained consistent. But yeah, definitely easily my top 3.
Yeah, PKJ and I talk about the ventriloquist quite a bit as well, and Dark Patterns, and his thoughts on that. So, all right, up next we have Aquaman number 12. It's All Fight Month Round 2, which is interesting because some of the All Fight fights are these one-on-one fights that are basically Round 2 of the DCKO tournament are in the individual books, and then some are in their own one-shots. So this is the fight between Aquaman and Hawkman of Gods and Men. It's written by Jeremy Adams. John Timms handles the art. Rex Locus on colors. Dave Sharp on letters. This is in your top 5, Rocky. Give us your thoughts on it.
It is. It is in my top 5. In any other week, it probably wouldn't have been in my top 5, if I'm brutally honest. I didn't mind it, but I was there's some comments here. There's a lot of fun to be had. I actually wonder if I openly wonder how Robert Venditti would feel about how Aquaman is written in this issue. First, let me say that the John Tim art is absolutely fantastic. These are two, he does a fantastic job portraying both Hawkman and Aquaman as really majestic, powerful warriors in their own right. And, the visuals really are truly, genuinely fantastic. And one of the things that really stands out is just how powerful both of these heroes are. And this is where we're getting into, and I want to say, there's a reason why that this is in my top 5. And that's because at the end of the day, this was enjoyable. This was fun to read. Now, obviously, there's 1,000 different ways that you can evaluate these types of stories, because you could. The rules of the tournament are you can basically pick whatever iteration of your past self that you want in any of the rounds and what have you. So there's 1,000 different ways that any writer could write this. And Jeremy Adams, not surprisingly, Jeremy Adams is a continuity guy. And he sort of sticks to the idea, okay, Aquaman right now has got the power of the blue, and he wants to maximize the power of Hawkman too to make it a good visual fight. And so Hawkman ultimately ends up, being gifted with the powers of his Hawk god there from his native planet of Thanagar, and so you end up with Aquaman with the power of the blue and Hawkman, and ultimately at the end, Hawkman wins. I would have liked to have seen different iterations of Aquaman. I would have liked to have seen classic Aquaman versus classic Hawkman, but hey, man, beggars can't be choosers, right? There's different ways that you could do this. I personally would have liked to have seen Hawkman choose his Kryptonian past, because he's had 1,000 different lives. He does have more experience than Aquaman, hands down. I would have liked to have seen that experience play more of a role in the battle here. But again, there was some really great moments, really captured so well by the visuals. Hawkman is also surprisingly respectful of Aquaman, which I think was just a tad out of character. I think Hawkman should have been a little bit more angry. He's a warrior. I think Hawkman had an iteration of himself, a past life when he was on Krypton. I would have liked to have him chosen his Kryptonian. Imagine a Kryptonian Hawkman with the yellow sun. He would have been even more powerful against Aquaman. I just thought a little bit more. There was so many options available to script Hawkman. He's had so many thousands of lives, and I just thought. For Jeremy Adams, I actually was expecting just a little bit more from this in terms of creatively having these two have 3 battles, and they never even did 3 rounds. It lasted 2 rounds, which was really surprising to me. I mean, never even gave Hawkman a win, which I thought was stunning, quite frankly. And again, I thought Hawkman wouldn't have been so respectful. I mean, clearly they respect each other, but the world's at stake here. I mean, you're fighting for King Omega. You got to be. I mean, they know better. Hawkman in particular knows he's done all kinds of horrible things with different lives. And you look at Robert Venditti, how he scripted the Hawkman's past. Hawkman, arguably more than any other hero, knows, even more than Captain Atom, I think would be able to sort of access some aggression there. But I don't disagree. This is a legitimate interpretation of the two, because Aquaman is a very majestic king. He's very powerful, and he's super powerful in his own right. Hawkman is a very majestic and in his own right as well, and aggressive and a lot of experience. But I got to tell you, Aquaman was so impressive. He kicked ass so well here. Aquaman, I don't know, man. I picked Wonder Woman to win the DCKO tournament, but Aquaman here has kicked some serious ass. I mean, he's the contender. I mean, he's impressive as hell. If it comes down between him and Superman, I don't know, man. But anyways, I enjoyed this for the pure spectacle of it and the John Timms art, which was fantastic, entertaining as hell. And just to show how powerful Aquaman was. So, it was enjoyable. And again, and this is so true of all, even the fights we've reviewed so far. It's interesting to see the different interpretations that writers bring to these various characters. But I enjoyed this fight. It was quite fun. And I'm really curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a sucker to check out Aquaman when he wears his blue camouflage suit.
Yeah.
I think Neil Ponzer, is the artist who designed it. I love that suit. But here's the thing, right? Yes, there's only 2 battles. I think this is the only one of the ones that I've read so far. There was only 2 battles. Because honestly, Hawkman is not even in the same league with what Aquaman has become.
Yeah.
So he didn't have a chance to do the Kryptonian thing or whatever. And even if he did, so what? So what? Like, Aquaman literally pulls all the water out of his body and desiccates him. like Aquaman has become so powerful in the hands of Jeremy Adams, and I'm here for it. Jeremy has done what I would have told you even after the first issue or 2, the impossible. He has elevated Aquaman so far up the list of my favorite DC superheroes. I'm always going to have, number 1 is always going to be Adrian Chase Vigilante for me. Like, people what? Even more than Superman? Yeah. In terms of story and whatever, those 50 issues and 2 annuals, whatever, that's always at the top for me for a couple different reasons I won't get into here. But for the sake of argument, we'll set him aside, because you could make the argument he's not a hero. He's certainly not a superhero. He doesn't really have superpowers except for healing. So Superman, and then Hal Jordan Green Lantern. And after that, maybe the Creeper, maybe Firestorm, maybe the Flash. They're all in there, right? Way down on the list is Aquaman. No. Now it goes Superman, Hal Jordan, Aquaman. Aquaman is now 3rd, and he's threatening Hal. If Aquaman stays like he is, because this is incredible storytelling. This is elevation of a character that's been around for a long time. But the only thing that I can sort of compare this to in recent memory in terms of raising a character's power level is what Jeffrey Thorne did with Jon Stewart. But that came across, as you and I talked about at the time, as so much like fanboy, hero worship. This is my favorite character. I'm going to give him all these powers, whatever. But it never felt earned. Not that John Stewart didn't deserve them necessarily, but it just felt like, okay, he's gaining these powers for no reason other than the person that's writing it loves John Stewart and he wants him to be the most powerful character in the DCU, as opposed to what Jeremy Adams has put Aquaman through with him. Right now, he believes his daughter, he missed out on his daughter's entire growing up, her entire childhood. His beloved Mira is dead, and his whole kingdom is missing. The whole city of Atlantis is missing. He's gone through some stuff. Yes, he's powerful with the hydrokinesis, and he uses it to a degree that, and a level of control that even Mira never exhibited. And he is the avatar of the blue, which gives him that control and gives him almost the ability to kind of sense water and pull like water is everywhere there. Like he crashes a tidal wave on Aquaman at one point. Like he kicks Hawkman's ass. And it doesn't feel in my mind like, and I get it. I hear what you're saying about what Venditti did and how Hawkman has been reincarnated over time. I mean, Robert Venditti did the impossible as well in making Hawkman's continuity, character continuity make sense. And he is the most experienced, because he's been reincarnating since basically the beginning of DCU. He is the most experienced warrior in all of the DCU, and yet Aquaman still doesn't have too much of trouble defeating him. I think that goes to show just how powerful Aquaman has become. But again, it feels earned. So, like, I read this, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I just love this. This is the Aquaman I want. Everybody should be reading Aquaman. This is great. Nobody can say Aquaman is a joke now. And yeah, I said it before, and I even talked to Jereym about it because that's another one of the fireside chats. We didn't really mention this book at all, only because we talked a couple weeks ago, and I didn't want to get into the spoiler part, even though I'd already read it. But we did talk about how this is a chance for Aquaman possibly to raise his profile by winning the tournament. And if anything, this issue shows that he is powerful enough and capable enough, because yeah, Superman might be a Kryptonian, but he's 60-70% water as well, just like a human. So if Aquaman is controlling that water, I don't know. I think he's definitely a contender, and I would love to see it. I still think, for the record, I picked Superman to win, and I still think Superman is going to win. But man, I would love it to be Aquaman. As far as the John Timms art, it's fantastic. It's majestic.
It is.
You feel the crashing waves. You feel the power of the punch. And I do agree with you, Rocky, only from a visual perspective, that it would have been great to see other iterations, because Hawkman has already had so many. That Kryptonian version of Hawkman, Qatar All, I think his name was.
Yeah.
K-A-T.
Yeah, that was just an example. There's many others. Yeah.
Well, and he's on the cover. He's on the cover of one of the Hawkman issues. I almost had a shirt made that looks like that, because I love the design of that shirt. So fantastic. Brian Hitch did it. It's so great. So I would have loved to have seen it, and I already said I would have loved to have seen the blue Aquaman blue costume as well. But again, I think just Aquaman, he didn't need to be in any other version of himself, and he does defeat Hawkman with relative ease. And I love what that says about the power level that Aquaman has right now. Because it's like every time Hawkman comes at him, Aquaman doesn't even really seem to break a sweat. He's like, well, I'll just do this. I'll just pull all the water out of your body. What are you going to do? And even when Hawkman's up in the air, he's like, there's no ocean around here. You're not going to be able to find any water. He like pulls water out of the ground. He's like, water's everywhere. It's in your body. It's in the air. It's in the ground. Like, it's everywhere. So the power level that Aquaman has right now is fantastic. So I'm definitely here for it. I can't believe Jeremy Adams has, he's made me a huge Aquaman fan. It's fantastic. There's a couple of great covers. There's one by Guillaume March that's fantastic. There's one by the aforementioned Lucas Meyer, which is available. The Guillaume March is the one that's behind Rocky's head right now. There's one that Lucas Meyer does that has kind of the whole supporting cast The one you have up on the screen right now is by Kyu Young Eom, and I love the way Hawkman looks in this on this cover. He looks fierce and amazing, but for some reason, Aquaman, especially with his haircut, he looks like a cape.
Yeah, he looks like a kid. Yeah,
he looks like a little
teenager.
Boy band, Korean boy band K-pop guy with the hair like down in his eyes, whatever. He looks ridiculous. So I love half this cover and the other half. So yeah, I think I ordered the Lucas, or I actually think I ordered the Guillaume March one actually, because I ordered it sight unseen a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to pick up that Lucas Meyer cover as well because it's fantastic. So, anyway, Aquaman now third on my list of favorite DC characters. he passed up so many people. Like reading Aquaman like this makes me want to go and read other Aquaman comics. Except I know that I'll go and read those, and I've read a lot of them already. But I can't go back and read Aquaman from the Silver Age and get this. This is the characterization I want and the power level I want for Aquaman. And I just hope, God, I want people reading Aquaman because it's so good, and I want Jereym to keep telling the story. And maybe he doesn't get to keep this power level, but he can keep the swagger at least for a while.
I feel compelled to give you one little counterpoint pushback, and that is that Jeremy Adams gave Aquaman Mirror's powers to be able to suck water out of
other opponents.
And so, no. I know, but I'm just pointing out that part of and I'm not just the only one, part of the potential fun of this series was the different iterations of the characters. You got different iterations of the Captain Atom and the Superman, etc. Maybe a different iteration that has been traditionally Aquaman for the longest time. The question is, could classic Aquaman have been classic Hawkman? And for the record, I do believe Aquaman could. I do believe Aquaman is probably more invulnerable and just is a slight in 1-to-1. I think Aquaman would still take it. I'd give Aquaman this. Not reading this, I would have guessed Aquaman would take it. Even without the power up from Jeremy Adams, I just would have liked to have seen. I just would like to have seen that without him having Mira's powers. Because for me, part of me feels like it's a little bit of a cheat because we're only seeing Jeremy Adams' version of Aquaman fight Hawkman, and that's the one thing that he could have played in the sandbox a little bit more. That's but it's still a great issue.
I hear what you're saying. And I don't necessarily disagree with you, but we know it's not. When these events come along, it's not always it doesn't necessarily serve the best interest of the writers for telling their own story that they're telling in their own books. And of all creators, if anybody deserved to be like, I'm going to take this event and use it in service of my own story, it's Jereym. Because remember what happened to him on Green Lantern?
Yeah.
He got one issue. Yeah. Maybe 2 issues. Then he had to go do the stupid Night Terrors thing, and it slowed down the momentum on his Green Lantern book. So I'm going to give him I mean, again, I hear what you're saying. It would have been a much closer fight. Would have maybe been a little bit more interesting, as opposed to this. It was interesting, but not because it was competitive. Because it wasn't competitive. But again, I think having it not be competitive, that part of that story beat, if you will, it serves what Jeremy's doing in his in the regular plot that he's telling. But I hear what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree. It would have been cool to see. So anyway, let's move on. Up next, book that's in your top 5, not in mine. Supergirl. Excuse me, Supergirl number 8. Right.
I thought that's Gotham. I thought it was. Sorry.
Why do I not have that one? Oh.
It's I thought it's Gotham. Batman Gotham by Gaslight is what I have next.
Yes, that is next. You're right. My bad. For some reason, I did not have that one open. So give me a moment while it opens up. But this one's not in either of our top 5.
No. And it's surprising. I would have thought it would have been in my top. I was really hoping it would be in my top 5, but
it comes in at number 6 for me. So just missed out. Andy Diggle's the writer. Leandro Fernandez artist. Matt Hollingsworth colors. Simon Boland letters. I did enjoy it. especially for the potential that it has with this Gotham by Gaslight version of the Justice League. The reason that it didn't make my top 5 was sort of the betrayal that John Constantine and this version of the Martian Manhunter perform on the rest of the Justice League in the Phantom Zone, and then they do it to sort of fool the Martian Manhunter, because the Martian Manhunter doesn't believe that anybody should have the K-Core, the Kryptonian technology, but Constantine wants to keep it safe. And then Constantine gives I knew you guys would find a way out, or whatever. Like, it felt very Ex Deus Machina, honestly, the way it ended. And the thing was, the story was so great and so grounded in a lot of ways for the majority of the series. So to have it end that way, it wasn't a bad ending. Again, because there's the potential for more stories with this version of Justice League. But it just felt it was like a convenient ending, if you know what I mean. But the art is great, as it's been throughout the series. And overall, I think this both Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, and Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice were ultimately successful. I did enjoy them. So, but yeah, just didn't quite nail the landing for me. What are your thoughts on it?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead, Rocky. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, sorry about that. My headphone cord is too short, so I always end up knocking the cord out of my headphone. But in any event, I was just straight up. I haven't been this disappointed in the ending of a series that I've been loving. I've been enjoying it. I loved the first volume of this. The first 6 issues, I thought the world building was fantastic. But man, and even the previous 5 issues I thought were really good here. But I just thought this ending was so disappointing. This was underwhelming. Lex Luthor ended up being nothing but a puppet, and an embarrassing ending, quite frankly. And then I still maintain the major villain should have just remained General Zod. It would keep the story tight. That the central conceit of Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice, the central conceit of Gotham by Gaslight world is keeping it inside. It's the 19th century world. You didn't need to go multiversal. You don't go Darkseid. And then even Darkseid being in the Phantom Zone, and then they're in the Phantom Zone and they're so small. They're literally on Darkseid's fingertips. He could have squished them and killed them at any time, and I'm not even sure why he didn't. It just seems so contrived, and even the betrayal by Constantine and Martian Manhunter, it seems so completely pointless. There was no need for the betrayal. They could have just said what the plan was. I mean, it made no sense. It was really badly written. Like, it just felt like we had to get this to an ending, and so how do we force this? And this is I love Andy Diggle as a writer. This is just, frankly, this was just unfortunately, I think this issue was a misstep for him. I would have liked, this could have easily been maybe elaborated on a little bit more. I wish he would have had maybe at least, frankly, 2 or 3 more issues, and because there's a lot of things to build on here, like particularly even Batman's relationship with Talia. Clearly, Batman has an attraction to Talia. It pisses off his wife Marion there. So there were some character moments that I did enjoyed. There is some very interesting moments, and there was a lot of character work that Ed Diggle put into this. But because it's crammed in, and I think he didn't have enough maybe space to really flush it all out. And I appreciate that. I'm not a writer, so I can only imagine how frustrating Andy Diggle might. I think he found himself in a situation where he only had 22 pages left, and he realized he probably needed another 6 issues to really give this the ending it deserved. And really, there was no final battle with Darkseid. The final battle with General Zod seemed extremely underwhelming. He was disposed of far too quickly. The ending with Lex Luthor here seems, again, fairly rushed. It's just unfortunate. I personally hope that when this series returns, and I want it to return, that the stories remain more insular. Keep the villains, 19th century villains. Don't go multiversal. Keep it within the confines of Gotham by Gaslight. Keep the villains more smaller scale and more character centric, because that's where Andy Diggle, I think, shines, as opposed to trying out these multiversal tales. Because that's where it fell apart for me, is that the story got too big given the nature of the Gotham by Gaslight universe. But in any event, a great series overall. It's just the ending it petered out.
Yeah, I clearly had a lot to say, but I will say that, I mean, we did get an in-story reason for the betrayal, and that was that Constantine, he had to pretend to be going along with Martian Manhunter because Martian Manhunter could read his mind, and he wanted to save the K-Core. He didn't want the K-Core destroyed. But again, we don't have context for why. So that would happen if this continues. So without that context, it makes it a little wonky. So anyway, now we're on to Supergirl. Sophie Campbell, writer and usually the artist, but just does the cover art for this particular issue. Hanning is the artist. Alex Cormus on colors, Becca Cary on letters. Beautiful holiday colors. Great art by Hanning. But I do prefer Sophie Campbell's art on this book because I feel like it captures the tone of what she's trying to do a little bit better. That being said, this issue felt very pointless to me. It's about why Supergirl's depressed around the holidays. And, it's not a bad issue technically from that perspective, which I can't say about every book that's out this week. But this just was underwhelming because I was like, what's the point of this? So, it just felt like this has been a little bit of a problem with Sophie Campbell's run. It started off really strong narratively, and now it feels like it's kind of floundering for me a little bit. So only comes in at number 7 for me, but it's in your top 5. And I usually try to pick Rocky's top 5 before he actually gives them to me in no particular order. I don't know what his actual rankings are. I just know these are his top 5 books. And this is the one I did not pick. He named this as being his top 5, and I was like, what? Yeah. Really a huge surprise for me. So anyway, let us know why you put in your top 5.
To be honest, it's as much a reflection as to the competition it had this week as it is to why I put it. It made my top 5. It likely wouldn't have made my top 5 in many of the other weeks, but. But let me just give Sophie Campbell some praise here. I thought it was a heartfelt story. Now, Sophie Campbell is very clearly, with mixed success in my view. I think she's trying to appeal to a younger audience, but she's imbuing some adult sensibilities here. This is one of the things that this incorporates is, I'll just reference Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. This is Supergirl being depressed over the Christmas holidays. And part of it is that she misses her home. And I wish Sophie Campbell would have went more into why she misses her home planet, her actual native Kryptonian parents. She's always a little bit more depressed on the holidays because she still remembers, her entire family on Argo City. She was 14 when they were killed and wiped out. So it's still very emotional for her. Any family together time. And that's hinted at here by Sophie Campbell. And I think to relatively good effect in the story. And it's also, I think what she does very cleverly is that she incorporates a Linda robot. And by doing so, now what's a Linda robot? Well, you have it's incorporating some aspects of the Silver Age, and I think she's taken a page from Mark Waid on that, because Mark Waid, over in the pages of Action Comics, as we just reviewed, he's not afraid to incorporate the Silver Age, and one of the Silver Age concepts was, of course, Superman robots, and of course we're getting that in the actual mainstream Superman by Joshua Williamson, with Superboy Prime, with Superwoman, and a Superman robot. Well, Supergirl had her robots too, and she had her to help cover up for their secret identities. She had a Linda robot, and to sort of incorporate a story that this was a robot that Supergirl herself had forgotten about. And I thought that Sophie Campbell did a good job of sort of juxtaposing, Kara's feeling of loss and missing her family and always being a little bit depressed over the holidays, with the fact that that she unintentionally sort of forgot about Linda the robot too, and so it sort of magnified, I think, the emotional angle there, while at the same time she's getting frustrated with Lesla because Lesla didn't want Kara to be upset, and she's, Kara just wants to be left alone, and you know what it's like when you want to be left alone, and the people who love you always want to make sure you're okay, but sometimes it feels, just leave me alone. I just want to be alone, and I thought that Sophie Campbell did a good job of sort of like scripting Kara's emotions at this time during the holiday season, but ultimately, and I thought there were some really touching moments where the Linda robot died in her arms, but at the same time, it reminded her of the importance of family and remembrance and paying tribute. And I just thought it was very nice, and it's a good Christmas story. And I just thought it was well done. And I thought the art was pretty good. I thought the color work was great. And at least for this week, I really thought it deserved to be in my top 5.
Yeah, the main cover by Sophie Campbell is fantastic with the Linda robot in the tree. Really great. All right, the book we've all been waiting for, Absolute Batman 15, written by Scott Snyder, art by Jacques, Frank Martin on colors, Clayton Cowell on letters. I did not like this book. It came in butt naked last for me. I would rank it lower than 9 if I could, but I can't rank it any lower than 9 because there's only 9 books this week. So anyway, it's in your top 5, Rocky, so take it away.
Well, it's not just in my top 5. It's definitely in my top 3. I enjoyed it. I suspected that, you sort of hinted in our earlier sort of text messaging back and forth that this, I got the impression this wasn't going to be in your top 5, but, I know that the Joker is not a character that you particularly love at the best of times. Next, of course, to Amanda Waller. But I thought what was interesting here is Scott Snyder is, this issue beyond anything else, and you can tell it right on the cover, which displays the Joker. That's actually on the cover, what the Joker actually looks like. This is a horror show. Snyder's approach to Absolute Batman really is, he's approaching it like a horror. So many aspects of Absolute Batman, from himself to Bane to what happened to all his friends, i.e. Rogues Gallery. It was horrific. There's a horror element to this title in addition to it being very, very character-driven, in my view. I thought the origin here of the Joker was fantastic. I loved it. He's added some mystery to it. Is the Joker sort of immortal? Well, he originated. There's still... The issue itself consists of Bruce Wayne talking to Alfred, and Alfred is basically telling him his own theory as to who the Joker is. And even Alfred feels stupid because he goes, I don't know, my theory, it's kind of a crazy theory, but this is what I think the Joker is. This is what I think the history is. And he goes, and we learn about this guy named Jack Grimm, who was born in the late night and basically born in the late 1800s, early 19th century. And over time, his family accumulates all this wealth and he becomes almost like a philanthropist. But something's going on behind the scenes. This young Jack Grimm in the early 1900s, there was more to him than meets the eye. He may have, in fact, been using, nitric oxide when he was a young kid, entertaining the children in the back streets of Gotham, and he may have been secretly been doing egregious and horrible things while covering up. And as the Joker, and as this Jack Grimm's family went from generation to generation, from Jack Grimm 1 to Jack Grimm 2, each successive generation, was it the same person, or is the Joker the same person as existed back in the late 1900s? And as he's built his wealth and built his power, what's been his end game? It appears that the Joker has acquired numerous islands all over the globe, and it looks like the people that he likes to torture and capture, he puts on these islands, and then he hunts them, and he seems to have he's on the surface, he's a businessman. Jack Grimm is like a Bruce Wayne. He's like a mainstream DC Universe Bruce Wayne, but he's the Joker in the Absolute Universe. And while he's a prestigious businessman in Gotham, and he even goes so far, he even has a cave and a grandfather clock where he puts the time to he puts the hands of the clock to a certain time, and he has his I guess, Joker cave, for lack of an absolute Joker cave, and it's maybe a little bit too close to the chest. I'm going to let you. I can imagine what your comments are, so I'm looking forward to your rant. But for me, I just thought that this does a good job of doing. While it might seem a little tropey and a little bit too close to the vest, I like the fact that this is very much the absolute dichotomy, this absolute flipping the script. This is the Joker as a multi-billionaire, having all the resources and being around for a very, very, very long time and playing both sides, playing good and bad against each other, all for his own machinations. And if you get on the Joker's wrong side, he will do whatever he can to destroy you and everything you love. Just like, remember what he did to Bane last issue after Bane was defeated by Absolute Batman. What did the Absolute Joker do? He blew up Bane's Santa Prisca Island. Bane's idea of retirement. Too bad. I'm going to keep you around a while longer. The Absolute Joker is a horror show. And just to remind you of how much of a horror show the Joker is, we get Absolute Batman number 15. And full compliments to cover A. I love it when cover A is the best-selling title. Rumor has it, I think that they've got pre-sales of 300,000 copies for this issue, which I think was even more than issue 1. I mean, Absolute Batman is on fire right now, and I think deservedly so. It's incredible. I enjoy this. There's lots of details I haven't mentioned. I know we often give spoilers here, but there's quite a bit I haven't mentioned, little details and finer Easter eggs here that you can pick in this issue. And I encourage people to pick this up. You, however, maybe won't, but let me know your thoughts.
No, I already said I did. I can't remember if I ordered cover A or not. I may have. But today when I went to my comic shop, I got, like I said, that 1 in 25 variant.
Uh-huh.
I asked him to put one of those aside for me, and then I got the Jock cover as well. But again, I only got them. I have a run of Absolute Batman. I want to keep the run going, and then the variant I got just to flip. So yeah. So the cover in the lower right corner is the Jock variant that I picked up off the rack.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the Joker, so like I said, when I first saw this image, and I'm like, wait, that's the Joker. He's actually a monster. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm not a body horror guy. I'm not a horror guy in general. I've become more of a horror fan in recent years. It's almost hard not to because horror is everywhere in comics these days. But I'm just not a fan of it. I just don't like it. I don't like that image. I don't like the Joker's a monster or whatever. There are interesting aspects. I like that it's opposite in terms of him having all the resources. He's got a cave. He lives in a manor or whatever. But if you're going to do that, then keep it going, right? Because you could make the argument that the Joker in the mainstream universe, he's a little bit of a horrific figure as well. Didn't used to be as much, used to wear the suit with the waistcoat and the tails and whatever, purple suit, and he looked a little bit more clownish, if you will, and he's become more horrific. That probably started in the New 52, if not before. So certainly when he cut his face off in the Joe's Garage version of the Joker or whatever. But it's like, I kind of like the idea of, and go back and look at the Joker when he first showed up in the final page of the first issue of Absolute Batman. He doesn't even look like, this is a Joker that looks very handsome, right? And maybe that was supposed to be Jack Grimm 4, and this is not, we're now on Jack Grimm 5. Maybe that transition's taken place here. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would make it make sense. But this idea of, I sort of, as much as I didn't like him showing up so early, the idea that he never laughed, again, because it's opposite. The idea that he would be the most, instead of looking outlandish, because regardless of what version visually of the Joker we're talking about, whether it's the one in the main universe, whether it's Joe's Garage version, whether it's this version of the Absolute Joker that we see on the cover here, regardless, it is outlandish. Green hair, white skin, super red lips, tongue going everywhere, whatever. It's outlandish. It's eye-catching. I get that. So if you're going to go opposite, why not have him be the most mundane, accountant-looking, suburban dad, version that he could be. And in terms of him being absolutely ruthless, I don't have a problem with that. Dropping a nuclear bomb on Santa Prisa to make sure that Bane's got nowhere else to turn. I'm all for that. But this idea of him being immortal, whatever, because that's not necessarily the newest idea either. If you recall, at the end of the Snyder Capullo run with the element, I can't even remember what.
Dionysium, I think it was.
Dionysium, yeah. And Snyder introduced that idea back then in that arc, his final arc of, hey, maybe the Joker's been around, he's been the serial killer throughout time, whatever. Clearly he's taken that to the next step here with this absolute Joker, but it didn't feel like a new idea to me. And a lot of what I don't like, because again, I like the idea of the cave and him having all the billions and all the resources. I love the idea of him, enabling crime, but also fighting against it. He's playing both sides against each other to make money, because that's very real world now, right? I feel like certainly in this country, that's what politicians do. They rile up the right, they rile up the left. Hey, let's get the right and left and these different ideologies fighting against each other. They're so busy being divisive and hating the person across the aisle that they don't notice over here, and we're just lining our pockets. And that's politics in the United States today. And you can believe it or not, but that's what it is. The rich are getting richer, and meanwhile, we're all distracted by fighting with each other or what have you. So I get that's an interesting idea, right? You're taking the quiet thing from real life and you're putting it in the book, and that makes a lot of sense. But the biggest thing, I just don't like the visual. I mean, I don't like the Joker as a character, first of all. I just don't. Never have. I've said it 1,000 times. If Batman exists in real life and Joker exists in real life, Batman defeats him in like 5 seconds. He's not a match. He's not a match for him, which will be interesting when we talk about some upcoming DC KO books.
But not this Joker. But not this Joker. This Joker has got the physical abilities. Yeah.
But again, I don't like it. I don't like the Joker as this demonic, immortal thing. I just don't like the idea. So why would I like a story about it? Again, I freely admit that it's well done. It's well paced. I know that it's going to be the best-selling book of the week, if not the month. It's hard to imagine that it's going to hold value, though, in the short term, because there are so many copies. But then I kind of thought that when Absolute Batman sold 250,000 copies, that it wouldn't. But then we got 9.8 graded Absolute Batman #1s that are selling for over $100. So I don't know. People are still, despite these insane numbers on Absolute Batman, there are people that are still discovering it. So anyway, I've talked about it way too long, way more than I planned on talking about it, because I honestly didn't. Like, again, I know this is my personal bias. I'm not saying it's a bad book. I'm saying for me, it could not possibly be ranked lower. I just didn't like it. I just don't like a demonic Joker. Like, this is the Batman who laughs all over again. Like, I'm sick of the Joker, and I'm sick of them. Oh, here, we're going to do it different. We're going to try to elevate the Joker in this other way. We're going to put chains or whips.
I will say this. I'll echo your sentiment to some extent. I'm liking the Joker, but I wonder how Scott Snyder is going to more distinguish him from Bane, because in many ways, I mean, he made Bane, like Bane was a horror show, and the Joker is a horror show too. So, it kind of feels he's still Bane-like, really, but he just happens to be the guy in charge. So I'm still hoping that there's more complexity to him. He's very, very much a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of character, the Joker, which I think is very interesting. But he seems to be more in control of his transformation, unlike Bane, who, was just a product of too much venom. But in any event, I think it's fascinating.
I prefer a Batman that doesn't owe so much of his existence to a villain, let alone owe it to the Joker, who I think, again, Batman would, if they were real, Batman would defeat him so easily. Snyder's run has always Batman is defined by the Joker. That's what Scott thinks, and he's the one writing the book, so he can write what he wants. I get it, but I don't have to enjoy it. That's my freedom. Scott can do what he wants to do. I get to, do what I want to do, and I don't like this, so it's fine. Yeah. Everybody can read it and like it or whatever. But in the Absolute universe, we have an Absolute Batman that's going to be even more intrinsically in time. We know that his friends, Bruce's friends, which I love the idea of him growing up in Crime Alley, and he was actually childhood friends with Waylon Jones and Edward Nygma and Oswald, Harvey Dent, all those guys. So they've all become villains now because of Bane, and Bane works for the Joker. So the Joker, the Absolute Joker, is responsible for the creation of the vast majority of Batman's rogues in the Absolute universe. I hate that. That's even worse than in the main universe where Batman is defined by the Joker. This Batman is also defined by the Joker, and the Joker has created most of his villains, his classic villains. Yeah. I don't want Batman as a character to be that, his origins to be that closely tied to a villain. I just don't like that. I want him to stand on his own. So
yeah. I can respect that. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. And unfortunately, it doesn't get any better. I thought when I read this that this would have been my lowest ranked book, but Absolute Batman. But that's a personal thing. But DCKO Wonder Woman versus Lobo. It's written by Joelle Jones, Jason Howard, and Cary Nord split the art. Daniel Bayliss does a couple pages of art as well. And then we've got colors by Tamara Bonvillain for the majority, but then Daniel Bayliss colors his own pages, and then Clayton Cowles is on letters. So I don't want to rant too much about this, but this is a failure on all levels. I don't think it's a very technically well put together comic. The pacing is wonky. The plot is awful. The art isn't good. I don't want to sound like I'm echoing what Rocky usually says about Wonder Woman, but I expect either it's like traditional superhero art with Wonder Woman looking beautiful because she's a beautiful Amazon, or looking badass, and conversely with Lobo, you can bring in some humor or whatever, but I would have wanted this to be played a little more straight with Lobo, but instead he's like nonsensical and over the top. And we even get the new 52 version of Lobo where he's much thinner, shorter hair, whatever. It doesn't look like the classic Lobo. And that version of Lobo was very much ill-received.
It was hated. And it was hated by Lobo. Lobo, the character, hated his new 52 version. He would never choose that version, ever.
It was very meta. So this just failed on all sorts of levels. But the biggest disappointment in this is this had the potential to be so good. I mean, I wasn't as excited for it as you and Steve were, but I mean, I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. Like we talked about it with, previous the Superman versus Captain Atom, as much as, we might've had some problems with that, or, just earlier in this episode with Aquaman versus Hawkman and how awesome that was. Mm-hmm. And so you get this idea in your head, okay, this is going to be great. It's going to be this fight, whatever. And they completely squandered it. I don't know why they picked Joelle Jones to write it. I don't know what the hell this has to do with anything other than it's those two fighting. But you know how, like, certainly, we'll see it in some upcoming DCKO tie-ins where the people that are fighting the combatants are very sort of aware of why they're fighting and what the stakes are. And so you get a little bit of context that way. We get none of that here. That can be okay if then we just get really cool fights with great visuals. But we don't get that either. We don't get anything. We don't get anything but a poorly drawn, poorly written comic. And so, like, I mean, there's an argument for me personally to actually put this last. As opposed to at least, Absolute Batman has...
Well, it's okay because somebody else put it last.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure you did. But all that being said, the only thing that I did like about this, I actually like that version of Lobo that was hated by everybody.
Oh, God.
Because I'm not a fan, but I'm not a fan of Lobo. I don't like the classic version of Lobo. generally speaking. I think my favorite was the Tim Seeley Black Label Lobo's book that we got. I did enjoy that one. But other than that, I visually and a little bit more of a serious character. I liked the New 52 version. I know I was in the great minority. So for me, it was great to see him here, but it doesn't that's lipstick on a pig. At best. This is just bad. This is just a bad comic. That's all I can say. So anyway, I'm sure you have a little bit more to say about it, Rocky. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, where does one begin? First of all, let me just say that this entire comic was parody. It's a complete joke. It's parody. I almost feel bad even being constructively critical, because there's in no way, shape, or form did Joelle Jones, was she told what the actual purpose, or I don't think she understood what the rules of the tournament were. Let me be clear here. Spoiler alert, there's 3 rounds. Lobo, in my view, if they were to follow the rules of the tournament, won. He straight up won. He kicked the hell out of Wonder Woman in round 1, and he legitimately beat her. He beat her in a straight up fisticuffs. He kicked her ass. The visuals weren't that great, but in fact, there was even one where they try to make it look like a video game, as if we were playing a video game. So the whole thing is played like a complete joke. And then to top it off, in the iteration that in the second round, after Wonder Woman loses the first, in the second round, Wonder Woman cheats. And I mean actually cheats. And not only, she cheats in a way that violates her own code. What does she do? Apparently, the Heart of Apocalypse allows Wonder Woman to fight alongside her other Amazons. She literally is fighting. She defeats Lobo in the second round, but only because she has the help of Cassie Sandsmark, Yara Flor, and Donna Troy. There's 4. It's 1 against 4, and Lobo loses. I'm sorry, Wonder Woman, but that's a cheat. Now, you might think to yourself, well, wait a minute. The Heart of Apocalypse, it rewards, you're supposed to think like Darkseid. But cheating? For that matter, why doesn't Superman, why doesn't all the heroes just, get all their iterations together and get all their friends in all the other fights? It's just a cop-out. To make it worse, in the third fight, the one that decides it all, Wonder Woman wins, but only because, wait for it, you're not going to believe this, God steps in. The only reason Lobo loses the third match is because God himself, the entity, God is introduced. And he takes away Lobo's invulnerability, and that's how he loses. It is a genuine Deus Ex Machina ending. And not only that, there's apparently 3 or 4 other rounds, which doesn't make sense. They played chess. They had a car race. They had a boxing match. I thought there's only supposed to be 3 rounds. Inconsistency galore, all over the place. It's nonsense. Lobo would never choose his New 52 iteration. He hates his New 52 iteration. His New 52 iteration hates him. He would never do that. And fans hate that iteration. So if you're writing and scripting a battle between Lobo and Wonder Woman, why would you? And if you're a Lobo fan, well, Jace, I truly believe you're the only one on the planet who likes the New 52 version of Lobo. And I guess you're going to make a liar out. You made a liar out of me. But I was going to say I don't know anybody who likes the New 52 iteration of Lobo. But apparently, okay, there's you. But the majority of people, come on. It was just very disappointing to me. It was a cheat. It was poorly done. I want to give a shout out. I want to say something about the artists here. Daniel Bayliss, Jason Howard, and Cary Nord. Cary Nord actually drew Wonder Woman during J. Willow Wilson's Wonder Woman run. Cary Nord was the primary artist during J. Willow Wilson's run, and I wasn't really a huge fan of his art, but I will say, in Cary Nord's defense, he had some good moments of the best drawn images of Wonder Woman here, I think, are by Cary Nord, and I will also say that Cary Nord had a long run on Dark Horse's Conan the Barbarian, so Cary Nord certainly knows how to draw combat, visceral, that sort of thing, and there were elements in here where there was some of that, so I did have some moments, and I do like Lobo's smart-talking Diana, but but at the end of the day, there was no introspection. Lobo was written to be a little bit more straight, and Superman by Joshua Williamson. Lobo has destroyed his whole planet. Lobo recently had all his planet, discovered his fellow Zarnians were alive. They were killed in the Brainiac storyline in Superman last year. Wonder Woman herself, what's her version if she wins the King Omega? We never got in her head. We never got in Lobo's head. We never really saw what they thought in each other. We never got the type of introspection that these two characters deserve and what we fans deserve. So for that reason, I was just very disappointed. But again, I feel compelled to talk a little bit more about it. We try not to talk about when they're out of our top 5, but the level of disappointment that I have, I can't encapsulate well enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're so excited. It's like as soon as it was in there, weeks ago you read this, you've been stewing with it for a while. Yeah. So I get it. I mean, as soon as I read it, I was shaking my head. I was like, well, this is not good. And I felt like immediately thought of you reading it and just being like, what the hell is this? So, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just bad. That's there's no other word I can say. I didn't particularly find any of the covers compelling either, but the covers were just.
Oh, really? I love the covers. In fact, it's my one thing about the covers is I think I might actually get all 4. But I wish at least any of the cover artists. I would have loved to have seen some interior art by any of the cover artists, to be honest with you, because I really love the cover art. I'm
a huge Dan Panosian fan, and even that.
Yeah.
And I love Kenneth Roquefort too. Like I'm a big Kenneth Roquefort fan, and the New 52 version of Lobo was designed by Kenneth Roquefort. I think that's part of the reason that I like it. And again, mm-hmm. I don't like the regular version of Lobo. So getting something that was so drastically different in visual and in personality, I don't know that I'd go so far as to say I was like a fan of it. Like I want to read a series of it. But yeah. I liked it. I liked it well enough. So anyway, let's move on. Up next, final book in my top 5, Green Lantern Corps number 11, written by Morgan Hampton, art by Will Conrad and French Carlo Magno, along with Max Dunbar, and then colors by Lee Lowridge, Ian Herring, and Francisco Sagala, with Matt Herms, and then Dave Sharp on the letters. I will say that, the art felt a little inconsistent. You can, hear why there were so many different artists that worked on this. But Ellie gets some agency here. The John Stewart that was over in the dark sector that has returned and is struggling with the fact that the other John Stewart basically created a sentient being. We get a little bit of context for that, which is interesting, which I enjoyed. But mostly I enjoyed this for the Ellie aspect of it, as well as Equinar, who was the villain that was introduced last issue. We get his origin, and we find out why he has such a motivation for revenge against the Green Lantern Corps. Tons of action, well-paced. Morgan Hampton continues to do a great job with this book now that he's writing it solo. Yes, it's a big cast. No, not everybody's going to be able to have a moment in every single issue, but Morgan does the best that he can with a very, very strong cast. Aya gets a moment. We get to see Kilowog and Guy Gardner. They have a little bit of banter. Razor has a moment. So yeah, it's a big cast, and it's a big challenge for Morgan, but I think he's doing an admirable job. And although the art, like each individual artist does a good job, it's just, and it's not jarring when the art changes from one style to another, but it is noticeable. Obviously, I'm sure as fans, most of us would probably prefer just to have one consistent art style on the book. And I'm sure DC editorial would like that as well. I'm sure it was, probably an issue with a deadline or issue at the printer or who knows. Things happen, but at least it wasn't late. So anyway, this is in your top 5 as well, Rocky. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Morgan Hampton continues to do a really good job. It's great. He started off with Morgan Hampton. He started off sort of co-writing this title with Jeremy Adams, but I think he's made it his own, and I think he's shown that he can handle the scripting duties himself. I really like the characterization. I particularly like seeing the character of Ellie develop, because she was literally like a wish. She was a dream. She was the original Jon Stewart's wish, and basically a construct. And now she's a glorified sort of AI, and she's trying to find her place. And the idea of what makes a life form. Does Ellie have a soul? Does Aya have a soul? She's robot. And there's a very interesting play that Morgan Hampton does here, and the Green Lanterns at the beginning they perfect a way of communicating with each other that they can project. It's a holograph projection of themselves that is basically explained as it's sort of a projection of your soul, and that the ring sort of, if you have a soul, it projects that image through the ring, and it's connected to the aura and yourself as a life form. And so it's a very interesting concept. But Aya can't do that at first. At first, Aya can't project herself and communicate against great distances with the other lanterns. And so, of course, the question is, does Aya even have a soul? And of course, there's some sort of like emotional, heartfelt moments here. And the fact that I can feel that and pick up on that in a comic like this with such a large cast is a testament to the quality of the writing. The pacing is pretty good. The dialogue is crisp. There's many characters that come along that Hampton is managing many different characters. I like the fact that Effigy is an interesting character, where Jon Stewart and Ellie try to address him. At one point, it looks like Ellie's killed, and Jon gets very, very emotional about it. And so, even though this Jon Stewart is not the one that created Ellie, it's clear that he has some unresolved feelings and emotions for his sister, and he wasn't there when his mother died, because this is the other Jon Stewart that was in the dark sector, and at the end of Geoffrey Thorne's run. And so when you think about it that way, particularly if you're like us and you know the history of this, I think it hits a little bit more emotionally, this issue, despite the fact that a lot is being crammed in such a small space by Hampton. But I think it really, really works. And I'm also really curious at the end about Fatality. Jon Stewart made an offer to Fatality, telling Fatality, look, stop your vendetta against the Green Lantern Corps, and if you achieve redemption and try to make up your wrongdoings against the people that you've hurt, or against the families whose friends and relatives you've killed, you'll be able to go back to your home planet because we resurrected it in the dark sector. But of course, this new character, you said the name. What's that blonde blob character? Equinar, yeah. His motivation, and he's a mind reader, and he can pick up on Fatality's hate, and yet will Fatality see through and also attain vengeance against the Corps, or will Equinar end up being betrayed by her? I also love Equinar's origin, the whole idea that he was part of a world that the Green Lantern Corps sent some other life forms to live on the planet. And I don't think the Green Lantern Corps was aware that Equinar was a life form, and his fellow collective species sort of made up the life on the planet. And I don't think the Green Lantern Corps were aware of that, and they ended up getting killed, and Equinar's the last surviving species. So I even have some sympathy for Equinar, given his background. You can understand why he hates the Green Lantern Corps, and he's got a lot in common with Fatality, because Fatality lost an entire planet because of Jon Stewart. And that's why Equinar can relate to Fatality, because Equinar also lost a planet because of because of the Green Lanterns. Fatality knows what it feels like to lose a planet because of a Green Lantern. So they have that in common, but will they both have the same fate? So I like the setup here. I think, metaphorically, I think it works very well, and it's great storytelling by Morgan Hampton. And I'm really curious to see where it's going.
Yeah, I hope you guys all picked up issue 10, First Appearance of Equinar. Probably go back and grab it from Comic Shop if you did not. Yeah. That Saint Walker cover is fantastic. I love Saint Walker. He's probably my favorite non-Hal Jordan Green Lantern, or Lantern. Obviously a blue lantern. So yeah, I definitely had to pick that up. All right, I misspoke when I said my final top five because the final book that we're going to talk about in detail, Court, Children of the Round Table, issue number 4, it's also in my top five, comes in at number 5 for me. Written by Tom Taylor, art by Danielle Di Nicuolo, colors by Rain Barretto, letters by Wes Abbott. Bit of a setup issue as the Children of the Round Table. We saw last issue head into this kind of alternate pocket dimension, if you will, where they're staying at Camelot, the castle, and they're being trained on how to fight. And I love what Merlin and kind of the Master at Arms, I can't remember what her name is, in this issue, what they do. They have each of the individual weapons introduce themselves to the children. So, conversely, we as readers get to, come along for the ride. So we find out what the name, because each weapon has its own name, and then we also get the name of the knight that is inhabiting the weapon. Then they take the weapons away from the kids and say, hey, you need to be able to fight without these weapons and not be reliant on them. So that, there's a sense that makes a lot of sense, if you will. That's not a very good sense. I guess to use Rocky's word, it has a high degree of verisimilitude. Like if you're going to train these kids on how to survive going up against Mordred, in classic Arthurian legend, myth and what have you, story, they're going to be able to need to sort of stand on their own and work together and not be reliant on their magical weapons. Even if at the end of the day, if this were, a real story or whatever, they're going to lose to magic 9 times out of 10 unless they have their magical weapons to help protect them. But you can understand, again, it makes sense why they would be trained this way. So we get a chance to be introduced to each of the weapons, be introduced to each of the Knights of the Round Table, and then Merlin in, this young sort of almost 60s mod version of Merlin we have with the glasses and the loud shirt and what have you. He basically tells the kids are asking, like, who has, who are we up against? Who's trying to get the weapons or whatever? And their female trainer is like, don't know that you deserve to know. And Merlin's like, no, it's actually a very good question. They do need to know because, we saw in a previous issue that one of the kids' grandmothers was kidnapped. And she obviously had a lot of knowledge, and that was unbeknownst to her grandson Connor, and he's the one that wields the sword that's imbued with Lancelot's spirit, I guess you'd say. And so we find out at the end of the issue, we see the grandmother, and we find out who has him kidnapped, and it's Tom King getting or Tom Taylor rather getting a little bit political in a lot of ways, because while the guy is very handsome, and that's certainly not true to life, the guy who's sort of a cancer in the White House is the villain. And so this villain is president of the United States, and he's the one who is working with Mordred. Mordred is he's captured in an inanimate object as well. He's in the scarab, or the scabbard rather, that belongs to the sword Excalibur. And so, when it's revealed at the very end, as the grandmother says, I didn't vote for you, Mr. President. And so, it's pretty funny when you think about it in that context. But in terms of moving the story forward a lot, it doesn't, which is why this kind of ranks, only at 5 for me. And it's more a matter of the quality of the books behind it, why this snuck into my top 5. Because like Rocky mentioned with a couple of his top 5 books, in a normal week, this is not going to make my top 5. There's just not enough here. It's very much of a setup issue. But it is well done. I did appreciate the little twist, the little stab at our president, our current presidency here in the U.S. And it was great to find out the names of all the weapons and the knights that are inhabiting each particular weapon. And although I'm not a huge fan of the Danielle Di Nicuolo style of art, it is working for the story that him and Tom Taylor are telling, and it is growing on me a little bit. And I'm remembering how well it worked on their Secret 7 book over at Boom. It doesn't work for every title, but for a book with very young protagonists, I think it can work quite well. So, anything to add, Rocky?
Well, I do. I did find it very interesting. It was very. I think people are going to disagree. Those people who do read this about how heavy-handed it is that the president of the United States is corrupted by Mordred. And I mean, you'll draw your own conclusions as to how much you want to relate to the real world politics, but as a story itself, it does sort of elevate and make it more. This is why it's so much more difficult for the modern day teenage knights of the Round Table to defeat Mordred, because he's not just Mordred who's powerful in his own right, but he also has the additional resources of the President of the United States, which is quite something. And so it does elevate the stakes in terms of the story itself, and I think makes the story more interesting for that reason. And again, yeah, it's well written, and Tom Taylor does seem to rub some people the wrong way because because some people see political demons in everything he writes. You got to have, hey man, it's comics, man. I think it's a good story, and I think it's worth a read. And if you want something off the beaten path, and this is, as apparently as you say, I take your word for it. I've not read an interview with him, or if you did you interview Tom Taylor on this?
No, haven't had a chance to talk.
Yeah, because if it is in continuity, that's it's going to be interesting. I mean, if it is in DC continuity, instead of Lex Luthor as president, we're going to have Mordred. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I swear he's the one that said on social media that it was in continuity, but I mean, who knows? One other thing I want to mention. So Fell, who she's the redhead on the cover. She's kind of the leader of these gang of kids, if you will. And she's the one that's wielding Excalibur, and Excalibur is obviously imbued with the spirit of King Arthur. I love she's had arguably the most of the spotlight in the series so far, as opposed to any of the other kids. Connor maybe comes close. So she gets a little bit of a backseat in this issue, and I thought that was okay to give the chance to get some characterization for the other kids. But she does have a good scene here, because Connor, his grandmother, is not there, as opposed to all the other kids. Their family came along as well because their families were also in danger from Mordred. Everybody else has family there, but Connor just has his grandmother, and obviously his grandmother's been captured. And Fell and her mother decide to invite Connor to stay in their rooms with them. So I thought that was a touching moment as well. And again, even though they're young kids, it showed a level of compassion. So sometimes kids, young kids, they have more of a innate sense of compassion than adults. They haven't learned to dislike people, which I love. So anyway, that does it for the books that we're going to talk about in detail. There's a ton of digital books this week. Bunch of DC Go edition things. And there's also a second printing of the Batman 2025 Batman and Robin Year 1 Batman Day book. But I think most of this other stuff is all digital on DC Go. But in terms of collected editions, one that gets Rocky's highest possible recommendation is we have Secret Six from Nicole Maines, starring Gossamer, the boyfriend of Superboy.
Former, no longer the case.
Former boyfriend. They break up in this. Tongue in cheek. We read this. We did enjoy it. Neither Rocky nor I are, for the record, are fans of Jay Nakamura Gossamer. I think it's a terrible character. But anyway, this was a great series. Nicole knocked it out of the park. Great art from Steven Segovia. So that collects all 6 issues. We also have a Doom Patrol omnibus. This is the Keith Giffen and Matthew Clark run on Doom Patrol. It is 944 pages for $100. Obviously giant and oversized. It's an omnibus and it's a hardcover. DC's Finest has its latest Wonder Woman collection that's collecting All-Star Comics 8, Comics Cavalcade 1 and 2, Sensation Comics 1 through 18, and Wonder Woman 1 through 4. So this is the earliest Wonder Woman stories. So if you're looking to pick up the earliest books that contained Wonder Woman, All Star Comics is her first appearance. Then she showed up in Comics Cavalcade for a couple issues, and then she took over Sensation Comics and eventually had her titular title Wonder Woman. So this is collecting basically all of her appearances from 1941 when she debuted to 1943. So if you're looking for an inexpensive way to check that stuff out, and it is very much of its time, a lot of bondage and what have you, it's $40 for 528 pages. So a must-have and a great Christmas present for Wonder Woman fans out there. We also have Absolute Green Lantern Volume 1, both a hardcover and a softcover. Al Ewing is the writer, Joelle Lindsay on art. This is an absolute series, probably along with Martian Manhunter. Those are the two that are going to read best in trade. So I do recommend that if you haven't checked it out. It was reading it as it releases monthly. It's a little bit harder to get the cohesion that Al Ewing has come up with, and he does have some really crazy out there ideas, but it's easier to follow those if you read in a collected edition. And then finally, we have the first 6 issues of Jereym Adams' Aquaman run, The Dark Tide being collected. Actually, sorry, the first 8 issues of Jereym Adams' Aquaman run. John Timms on the art on that. And, you've just heard me talk about how Aquaman has been elevated to one of my favorite DC superheroes. He's come way up the list in the hands of Jereym Adams. He's more powerful than ever. He's more interesting than ever. And John Timms is killing it on the art. So I definitely recommend picking that up so you can have an idea of what the buzz is about. Don't be the last one to start reading Aquaman. Be the one that can say when somebody, jumps on Aquaman on like issue 13 and be like, "Oh man, this Aquaman's pretty good." You'd be like, "Yeah, I've been reading it since the beginning. I've read it all. I've read the whole series." Be that guy.
Yeah,
Don't be the guy that
and plus, it's a good idea to read because if you're wondering why Aquaman can kick Hawkman's ass so easily, you got to pick it up because it'll be explained.
Exactly. All right, I think you went first on rankings last time, so I guess I'll go first. I can't in good conscience put Absolute Batman last when DCKO Wonder Woman versus Lobo exists. So I'm actually going to put DCKO Wonder Woman versus Lobo number 1 at number 9. It comes in last for me. Mm-hmm. At number 8, purely on a personal aesthetic choice, not on because the creative team on that book absolutely killed it, and they're getting all kinds of accolades for their work on Absolute Batman, and it's all so well deserved. But this is just a personal preference and my dislike of the Joker as a character. I have to put Absolute Batman at number 8. Then coming at number 7 is Supergirl, number 8. Coming in at number 6, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice, number 6. And then for my top 5, at number 5, I have Children of the Round Table, issue number 4. At number 4, I have Action Comics, number 1093. At number 3, I have Batman and Robin, number 28. At number 2, Green Lantern Corps, number 11. I continue to be really impressed by what Morgan Hampton is bringing to that series. And probably to no one's surprise, being that this is the singular issue I can point to that elevated Aquaman in my standings as a favorite character, I have Aquaman number 12 from Jereym Adams. What an incredible book. I loved, and I like Hawkman. I was a huge fan of that Robert Venditti Hawkman series, and I gave Rob all the credit in the world for actually making Hawkman's continuity and history make sense, which was not an easy thing to do. And he did it, and he did it well, and it made sense, and I wanted that series to continue, and I was bummed when it was canceled. But all that being said, with what Jereym Adams has done on Aquaman, it was all too easy to believe that Aquaman wiped the floor with Hawkman in only 2 rounds. So definitely my book of the week. It wasn't really close. As soon as I read it, I was like, oh, that's going to be my book of the week. And sure enough, it held up. All right, what are your rankings, Rocky?
My rankings are coming in at number 9, DCKO Wonder Woman v. Lobo. It was just a heartbreakingly poor issue across the board. Coming in at number 8, I put Children of the Round Table. I'm not in the mood for like children age books. It's nothing against it. It's okay, but it's It's just not my cup of tea. Coming in at number 7, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, issue 6. It was a very disappointing ending to an otherwise, I think, very character-rich and interesting series. Coming in at number 7, Action Comics 1093. My top 5 are coming in at number 5, Supergirl number 8. I thought it was a great Christmas story. Sophie Campbell did a good job character-wise with Kara, and it was a good sort of like paid homage to the Silver Age idea of the Supergirl robots, Linda Robot. I thought it was very well done. Coming in at number 4, Green Lantern Corps number 11. Top 3 in number 3, I put Aquaman 12. I enjoyed. I thought it was a great battle. Great. John Tim's art was fantastic. Scripting, really fantastic battles between two very majestic, awesome warriors, Hawkman and Aquaman. Coming in at number 2, I put Batman and Robin, issue 28. Phillip Kennedy Johnson, man's fantastic job. He will be sorely missed. Marvel is definitely, he might even pull me over to Marvel because I'll have to check out his Infernal Hulk and whatever else Marvel's going to wisely put him on. Coming in at number 1, though, my friend, absolute opposite of you. I gotta go with Absolute Batman issue 15. I quite enjoyed the scripting of the Joker. I enjoy it. I'm really curious to see what Snyder's going to do with it. I like the sort of taking the opposite approach. It just seems to work for me. I like the fact of Joker as a monster, and perhaps the greatest monster in the Absolute universe next to Darkseid. Who knows? But it's really great. So there you have it.
I mean, I predicted 4 of your top 5, and I knew Absolute Batman 15 would be your book. And honestly, like, I'll take it one step further. You know, I talked about if you want to do the opposite, you make him like super mundane, regular guy who never laughs, which, you know, I like that idea. And obviously they haven't. They've turned him into a monster. I'll go you one farther. Joker shows up so goddamn much in the main DC universe. If you want to go opposite, don't have him fucking show up at all in the Absolute universe. Don't even have him show up. That would be the opposite, right? You want to do something different with the goddamn Joker? Yeah. Just have him not even show up. That would be fantastic. Uh-huh. So anyway, I'm being facetious, obviously. I think a lot of people love the Joker and love the Batman-Joker dynamic. I don't happen to be one of them. But then again, Batman is nowhere near my top 5 even favorite DC characters. So I don't begrudge those that are enjoying it. And I mean, don't call me a hater. I mean, Absolute Batman, it's been a little up and down for me, but if you recall, Absolute Batman 13 and Absolute Batman 14 were my books of the week. Yeah. And, you know, that they probably, the Absolute books definitely have probably 2 of my top 5 favorite moments in comics this year. Batman punting that kid, I mean, that's in the running for a favorite moment of the year. And the Welcome to Gotham with Absolute Batman dropping a building on Bane's head. Yeah, that's in the running. You know, that's got to be a top 5, top 3 moment as well. So
agreed.
Yeah, Absolute Batman, like I said before, is definitely deserving of all the praise that it's getting. But this is just a personal thing for me and my dislike of the Joker. So he'll never rise to the level of hatred that I have for Amanda Waller, so don't worry. Don't worry, Amanda, you're safe.
But we haven't seen. I'm sure that the Joker has the absolute. If the Absolute Joker has a boss, it's probably the Absolute Amanda Waller.
Oh my god, dude. What would they? They would have to make, if you're doing the opposite. She'd have to be like super nice.
Yeah,
she'd actually have to be a hero.
Wow.
She'd actually have to do the things that the main universe Waller gives lip service to, you know. Imagine
Absolute Amanda Waller injected with a bunch of venom. Imagine how monstrous that would look. Wow.
Imagine an Absolute Amanda Waller that actually tells the truth and actually helps heroes and tries to make the world a better place.
Wow. Like in a world riddled with omega particles. That's wow.
Yeah. That would really throw people for a loop. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought about this week's books. Head over to the Comic Source on YouTube as well, where all the fireside chats are going to come out starting on the 14th. Be sure you like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you know when those episodes drop. And don't forget, the Comic Source is available on all podcast platforms and applications. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thanks for joining us as always. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we will talk to you next time.
Catch you later.